It's me, Millie Taylor, back again for our second class on Shakespeare. And today I thought I'd tell y'all about Much Ado About Nothing, which is a comedy, basically, because nobody dies. So this, again, is going to be real short, just the basics, quick synopsis, main characters, and I'm going to do a little bit of one of the important scenes. And hopefully this will pique your interest to read the play for yourself. So it takes place in Italy, in a little town called Messina, and a man named Leonardo is the governor, and he's got a daughter named Hero, and I know that sounds like it should be a boy's name, but it's not, it's a girl's name. And then there's his, he takes care of his orphaned niece, who is the sharp-tongued, quick-witted Beatrice, and then there's his friend Don Pedro, and Pedro's Peter, and he is a prince of Aragon, which is in Spain. Now, they're friends, so Don Pedro's coming to visit Leonardo, and with some of his men, they're coming to Messina, and they're going to stay there for about a month. I'm just checking my notes here. And who's also coming along is his half-brother, Don John, who's actually illegitimate. And because of that, he seems to have a real chip on his shoulder, because that was a real bad thing back then, and he pretty much hates everybody. So then there's two of Don Pedro's men are Claudio and Benedict. Now, Claudio is young and sweet and handsome, and Benedict is basically just the male version of Beatrice. I mean, he's a smart-mouthed little thing, and he and Beatrice just get into verbal fights all the time. Now, the truth is, the reason she hates him so much is implied that they were a couple a while ago, and he walked out on her, so she really is mad at him. And so when Don Pedro comes to Messina, Claudio and Hero, who've seen each other, this time it's different. They sort of like, oh, it's like, oh, wow, struck by lightning, I love you. And they meet, and it's, love at second sight. But Claudio, I know there's Claudius, Claudio, and Claudio. Anyway, so he's kind of shy. So they're having a party this one night, and it's a masquerade, so they're wearing masks. And Don Pedro says, Prince Don Pedro says, well, you know what, I will secure her for you. Sort of like Cyrano. I will tell her how you feel. I will propose for you. And so he goes, okay. So they're all wearing masks, like I said. And so Don John, who's just plain nasty, and he comes over he knows it's Claudio, but he pretends that he thinks it's Benedict. So he goes over and says, basically, Benedict, I got to tell you something for your friend Claudio. Don Pedro has gone and proposed to Hero for himself, not you. And so Claudio's really upset and gets real mad, and then it's all fixed. They all straighten it out. Like, no, that's not true at all. I got her for you. And so everybody's happy, and they're all set up a wedding for about a week or so. Now, in the meantime, some of the other characters decide we have to get Beatrice and Benedict together. That's all there is to it. So it's Don Pedro and Leonardo. I think it's Don Pedro and Leonardo. They go off and pretend to be talking on their own, but make sure Benedict hears it. And then Hero and Ursula, one of the servants, go off and talk near Beatrice and make sure she hears it and say, oh, you know what? Benedict is in love with Beatrice. And she's like, oh, what? Oh. And they do the same thing to Benedict, and he has the same reaction. Well, then, I'm just going to skip ahead. So then they go, Don John, he just wants to ruin everybody's life. He decides he's going to go, he hates Claudio. And so his man, Borachio, has had a relationship with Margaret, who is Hero's servant. She's a bit of a slut, but she's very sweet. And so Borachio goes up to Hero's terrace, and they're kind of fooling around, if you know what I mean. But then Don John is down below he brings Don Pedro and Claudio there to see, and says, look at Hero. She's not a virtuous woman. She is not a maid. She is not a good girl. And he's just, oh my God, I've been fooled. This is terrible. And she's not a virgin. And so but he decides he's going to go through the wedding part way. So they get to the wedding, and just as they're about to say the vows, he accuses her of this. And she's like, no, it's not true. And it's like, no. But he doesn't believe her, and he just slanders her like crazy. And her daddy wants to kill her. I mean, this is like the worst thing you could say about a woman at this time period. Again, we're talking about the 1500s, where if you were considered basically like a slut or a whore, you had no place to go but a convent or become a prostitute. And her daddy's ready to kill her, and then with the priest, they proved that she didn't do this. It wasn't her. And they were okay, but we got to prove this to everybody, because otherwise she's in big trouble. So at the time, poor little Beatrice is so upset for her poor little cousin, and she's just crying her little heart out. And Benedict comes over, and basically this is where they profess their love for each other. And he says, she said, I don't believe you. And he says, how do I prove that I love you, more or less? And she says, kill Claudio. Well, that's just me doing my Emma Thompson imitation. Anyway, so he says, well, no, I can't. He's my friend. And then she says, and here's what I'm going to read, that scene, is not approved in the height of villain that hath slandered, scorned, dishonored my kinswoman. Oh, that I were a man. What, bear her in hand until they come to take hands, and then with public accusation, uncovered slander, unmitigated rancor. Oh, God, that I were a man. I would eat his heart in the marketplace. Oh, my God. Oh, sorry. Okay, that gets me every time. Okay, so then, he says, yes, I will challenge him, and I will kill him for you, because I love you. And then Borachio is overheard by the constable Dogberry admitting to the slander. And so they bring him, they arrest him, and then he admits that it was all a lie. Every last bit of it was a lie. And then, so they decide that they have to, so Leonardo and his brother decide, we have to punish him for not believing in her. So they tell him, there's a funeral tonight and she died of a broken heart. You killed her. So he comes to the funeral, but then they say to him, you know what? There's more. You're going to marry one of her cousins, and you don't even get to see her. You got to pick. There's going to be 3 girls sitting there in masks, and you got to pick one and decide which one, sight unseen, and you got to marry her to make up for what you did to Hero. And he agrees to this because he feels so badly about this, that it was all a lie. And he believed it. So he goes, and of course he picks the girl, and of course it is Hero, and she is alive. And then right after that, Beatrice and Benedict spar a little bit, and then they decide to get married, and that's the end of it. And of course Don John gets arrested. Anyway, so I just love this play. So I've had to leave out quite a bit, so y'all have got to go read this now, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of fun. So until next time, this is Professor Millie Taylor saying, read your Shakespeare. Bye now.